Welcome to the Dead Harvey podcast. This is Brad Paulson. I am very excited to have with me today character actor John Karyus. He is one of my favorite actors as well as character actors. Fantastic to have you with us here today, John. How are you?
Oh, thanks a lot. Great seeing you again. It's been a while, and always glad to be on this.
Yeah, awesome. So I thought it would be really cool to have you on because I've always been a fan of yours. I've always thought you were an awesome character actor and like very distinguished, especially in like indie horror. And I love every time like you show up on something, I'll tune in for it. So I kind of go out of my way to like catch your performances. But if anyone has seen Poltergeist, I would say that's perhaps like one of the most shocking of your appearances at the graveyard towards the beginning.
Poultry. People rent. I was like 5 when Poltergeist came out. The first one.
Yeah.
Not in that. I wish. But Poultry, the trauma movie about zombie chickens.
Yeah. I actually love Poltergeist. I think it's fantastic. I saw it at the premiere. I think it was in Sunset 5, I want to say. The LA premiere for it.
The one that's upstairs. Yeah. And I remember, I think that's where I met you.
Maybe.
Yeah, or maybe I met you at Spudix. That was pretty close to when I moved out here. So I met you, like I had to have met you around that time.
Yeah, so if any movie can start that will, like, people say, oh, this is like an opening attention grabber. Poltergeist sort of tops any other movie that came out for an opening attention grabber. Like Netflix tries to do that stuff. We'll do something crazy in the first 10 minutes. Well, this is crazier than anything you've ever seen, even like on par with indie horror. But Lloyd really goes for it, and his stuff is always hilarious because it always has a kind of, it seems like it's kind of cheap and sleazy, but then it also has this social commentary to it, and it's hilarious, and it works like satire on a number of levels, like most of his movies. But you get more out of him every time you watch him. But it's apparent that like Trey and Matt came from Trauma because there are certain of those elements that play like that Lloyd has that Trey and Matt have, where they make fun of so many things. But no, that's a great. So how did you like? So what drew you to LA and like acting in general?
I was always a movie guy. I was like 3 or 4. I wasn't even in kindergarten yet. I was like obsessed with movies. And the first movie I remember seeing in the theater, actually, my mother can confirm this. The first movie I saw in the theater was the Muppet movie.
Oh, nice.
I think that I was 4, maybe 3. And I was immediately fascinated.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the second movie I saw in the theater, but the first really made an impression. And that whole wave of, Star Wars and Tron and all that, all those movies, definitely. But I was also watching like Universal horror movies at home. My dad was into those. And I think seeing that stuff at such a young age, it's like you watch it now, it's kind of hokey. They're classics, but they're kind of hokey. The you can tell, especially if you watch it on HD, you can tell the backgrounds are fake and the trees are fake and everything. But I was like that little, and there were coyotes in my area. I was thinking it's like wolfmen out there, stuff like that. And it's like I've noticed all the horror kids have sort of a similar thing of like they were that little, they kind of thought this stuff was like, I don't know if I ever really thought it was real, but like little kid real. And somewhere along the line, you beat it and you become it.
Right.
Like you jump over this fence and then you are it, But as far as just, I always wanted to make movies, and I was watching sort of documentaries on how they made Indiana Jones and this sort of stuff, and then I was getting more and more into horror, and the weirder side of horror as the video boom kind of happened. I think our whole generation kind of lived in the video store, at least guys like us, and just
Hollywood Video got all the indie stuff, all that indie like borderline micro stuff was Hollywood Video, and then Blockbuster partially too, but
some of that stuff creeped into Blockbuster.
Some of it did.
Some Kelowna brothers, but And I was getting these sort of magazines like Film Threat, particularly Film Threat Video Guide, the black and white one.
Yeah.
Had stuff.
Oh
It
yeah.
was like, this is so obscure. I think 3 people saw this, and they're the one who wrote the article and the one who made it, and like their main actor.
Yeah. Film Threat's great. Yeah, I'm still following them today. They have they're kind of active on YouTube and stuff now, but they're awesome. They've always been really cool.
I love that. And then I think that just sort of a light bulb went on that you could just kind of just do it. Like, you might not be huge, you might not even reach an audience in your local area or whatever, but like you can creep your stuff out in these weird back of the magazine ads.
Mhm.
This is sort of before the internet,
Yeah.
back of the magazine, and there will be an odd crowd that'll find you.
Yeah.
And then I went to film school. I graduated high school in 94. So 94, I went to film school. And at film school, I kept getting cast in everybody's like shorts, to the point that I just sort of segued into acting more. And I think it was, I had a good look. I looked older. I kind of went gray and bald a little early. And I had a good look. And then I played like creepy and funny really well.
Yeah.
So everyone was putting this into their shorts, and I
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
took over that scene.
Yeah.
Like every movie I was in, I remember a screening. We had these screenings, everyone showed their movies. And I remember I'd be in like 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah.
And like any school, some of the teachers were like cheering this on. And then some of the teachers were like, oh my God, like everyone's movies has like this raunch comedy and like like bullshit, because I like improv things. So then after film school, I graduated, and working grip here and there. I hadn't moved to LA yet. I had a day job. I was shooting wedding videos and sort of sporting events, which is, it paid the bills, but that's kind of not filmmaking, I guess. But I was acting here and there, but it was more of a hobby. And getting cameos sometimes and things I gripped in. But I went to New York for about a week. New York City. I was in upstate New York, near Buffalo, but I went to New York City for about a week, and I checked out my friend's play, which was great. And it was a black box theater play, and it was a very good play. And then after the play, there was a after party, and it wasn't just the actors in the play; it was sort of that whole theater scene,
Mhm.
like people that were in all the plays for the last couple of years or something. And there were guys there bragging like, I'd last year I did 2 student films. It's like, wait, I did like 40,
Yeah.
in like a month.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I might have a knack for this.
Mhm.
So I just put together a resume and got some pictures together. They weren't quite official headshots. There is a format for headshots. I didn't really know that at the time, and started looking into indie like the micro budget, I guess is the
Mhm.
word, filmmakers in my area, which was upstate New York, Buffalo. And I'd started going to like Pittsburgh, and I get a little further. There's Ohio too, this sort of circle. And the first one I did, I believe, was I know it was the first one was Chris Seaver's Filthy McNasty. That's the one that that's the one that kicked off this illustrious career.
Those are on Tubi now. I was watching Filthy McNastiest yesterday.
The third one, I don't know if those are uncut on Tubi. A friend of mine saw Filthy. I made him watch it. And he's like, watch that movie on Tubi, Filthy
Mhm.
McNasty. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. And he watched it, and after it's done, he's like, "Oh, that was real fun. It was great. You guys did that for like $12, and it's still live." That was 20 years ago. That's still
Yeah.
live. 20
Yeah. Oh
years.
yeah.
And I asked him, "What did you think of the fecal masturbation scene?"
Hmm.
He's like, "What? I might have I might have missed that. Grabbed a drink or something." It's like, I think you'd remember that. Like,
Yeah.
I think Tubi cut it out. So it's like, don't watch Filthy and Nasty 1, at least on Tubi. The best part is cut out.
I remember that because years ago I saw that one, and but I didn't go back and revisit that one. I saw the McNastiest which was what I revisited yesterday. But yeah, that makes sense that Tubi would cut some of that stuff out. That's interesting though. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Tubi kind of edited stuff like that.
I think like boobs are okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, they show a lot of that. Yeah.
Violence. I think it's weird. When it goes weird. Like if you haven't seen the movie out there, there's a scene. I don't know why he didn't have me do it. I don't think he knew me that well yet. Casey, Chris's cousin, there's like a scene where he goes in the bathroom and starts masturbating with his own shit for no reason. Of course, no. What is the reason for that? Some people like it, I guess, but you'll never know who. They're out there though. But he's like taking a shit, and it's in the middle of like a dialogue scene, like they're talking about like, oh, this house is haunted, whatever it is. And he's like, "Oh, I gotta take a shit." And like goes in the bathroom and takes a shit, and then wakes up, and it's like he's got this dildo. It's like so fake, and is like smearing pudding all over it. And then I walk in, and I'm like, "Oh, something's going on in here," and he's like, "It's not what it looks like." And I'm like, "So you're not masturbating with your own shit?" And he said, "No, I'm looking for my mask." And he pulls up a Jason mask, and that's also sort of covered with pudding shit. And it's like, this is super absurd.
Yeah,
That came out to like Best Buy and all that.
That's hilarious. I remember like I used to go to Odyssey 2020, although I think a lot of the 2020s aren't around anymore. And I think, well, I don't know if Odyssey's still around, but yeah, the 2020 was that big like chain that carried a lot of indie stuff too that I liked. That was in California.
I think there was one on is it Lancashire, kind of near sort of that theater district in Burbank?
Yeah, that's near where I used to live in North Hollywood. We had an Odyssey video. And then they ended up like splitting like half of it. Like once the video store started kind of going out of business, they split half of it and they shared it with a weed shop. But I think, I don't know if it's still around or not. But yeah.
Indie horror and weed are a match made in heaven.
Yeah, this is where like this was the store that like we would used to make fun of. Because it was a great store to go into, but every time that we were in there, like families would be in there and things like that. But it had like that porn aisle in the back with a curtain, and you would see guys coming out.
A lot of porn.
There, yeah, you'd see guys coming out all the time, like with a stack, because they had like a special deal. It was like 3 for 1 day or something like that. And there was those guys who they were struggling to carry the stack of this porn, and then and then you would see like with the free hand they would pick up some Gatorade and put that on the counter with it. But I was always very amused by that.
Where I went to college in Rochester, New York, there was a store that there were these like shelves. It was like shelves you would see like at a shoe store, where like the maybe they were made for that. You put the videos from the porn section on the shelf, and they were open on the other side, so the clerk, and you go around, you're like shelf 4, and the clerk would pull. But it was funny, the female clerk always groaned. Like you'd come up and it's got shelf 13, and she'd just roll her eyes and then go over there, and then she'd say, oh. And then I think maybe there was a game, make her like groan the most, like write crazy stuff just for her benefit.
Yeah, you would think, I guess, well, I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't get used to it after a while. Like, but
She
yeah, it
didn't
would
seem into it. I don't know why she worked there. You know, everyone needs a job, but that job didn't pay that well. And she could have got a job at a grocery store, any of this. And she was not the owner's wife. The
Mhm.
owner's wife also worked there. So it's like, I don't know. But and she didn't seem pleased about any of the stuff there. They had that was a store. It specialized in what Blockbuster didn't carry.
Yeah, yeah.
So it had a huge porn section. It had a huge indie horror section. So all those weird movies that the back of Fangoria, back of Film Threat, they were in there. The store is called Video Barn. If anyone from that area was the Video Barn was is listening. And they had a huge anime section,
Oh yeah.
like every episode or whatever, Gasaraki 9 or whatever, they'd have the whole 20 volume thing. And then all this foreign stuff, and then they'd have like this these stickers on some of them, banned by Blockbuster. I
Yeah,
remember this.
nice.
I've never
Nice.
seen this movie, but it was like they'd have Passion of the Christ, or not Passion of the Christ, the Scorsese one, Last Temptation
Oh,
of the
Last
Christ.
Temptation. Yeah, yeah.
And I think there was a Woody Allen one, and then there was a Godard one, Hail Mary, that had a pregnant like a real pregnant belly woman in there,
Hmm.
like a hand. I've never seen the movie, but a hand coming up to greet it, and then like big sticker, banned by Blockbuster. And it's like,
Yeah.
I think there was some anti-religious themes in that, maybe some nudity. I've never actually seen it. I always wanted to. Maybe I'll watch it tonight, since he just died a few weeks ago.
Oh, that's
Might be
right.
the one I watch, and I forgot to watch one in his honor a couple weeks ago. But that one, yeah, I remember that, banned by Blockbuster. It is like, this isn't the raunchy stuff. This is more the stuff that's
Yeah.
also banned by
Right,
Blockbuster.
right. Yeah. Yeah, those video stores were a total like, they were awesome because it felt like a treasure hunt every time you went in there, trying to find like the weirdest, most obscurest. I have so many cool memories that I think I remember. And then there was a video store that I really liked. It was called Jerry's Video, one of my favorite memories of it. And it was on Los Feliz, I think like Vermont, Los Feliz, like right around that area. But the guy, there was like I think a husband and wife that owned the shop. I don't know if it's still around anymore, but husband used to smoke cigars all the time and wear like these camo jackets. And they had a daughter that would make membership cards for people, and they let you choose your membership card. And she did like these hand-drawn membership cards of monsters and things like that, or like theme-based for movies. And I got one of like a snake eating someone in half. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. It was the most like one of the most distinct video stores I've been to. But there was so many like good memories I have of places like that, just treasure hunting for like the most obscure videos ever.
Yeah, same here. That's like especially after you beat the first wave of like movies,
Yeah.
whatever your type of movies. We were horror guys, so it's like once you get past the Jasons, the Freddys, the all the franchises and stuff you read out about in Fangoria, there's like, that's like only half of like one shelf.
Yeah.
And all these others that, and they just keep going. Like, I still haven't caught up. No one has. No one's seen them all. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't know what they're telling you, but there's no way. There's people who've seen more, but no one has seen them. You just keep going, and you keep on undigging rabbit holes of like,
Yeah.
you find one weird movie and it leaves you down a whole rabbit hole of like, there's people into these, and it just keeps going, especially with like a Facebook group or something. It just keeps going until
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah. Looking for
more and more and more,
there's still some movies that I haven't found that I remember as a kid, and I'll probably look for the rest of my life and not be able to find. So especially like there was like some horror movie that I saw when I was a little kid, and it had like dolls stabbing someone. It had like somebody being thrown into a freezer, and it was as part of like there was a documentary called The Shroud of Turin, which is about like the turn of Christ. But they used to have, it was like in the 80s, but they late 70s or early 80s, but they used to have like trailers before, and they would just not show like, so they used to not show just PG movies or PG trailers for a PG movie. They would just show an R-rated trailer for a G movie or a PG
I
movie.
remember that.
And
Yeah.
it freaked me out so much, and I still can't find that movie. People were like, it might be like Don't Be Afraid of the Dark or any of these kind of things, and I can't find. I think it was some or like random weird Italian movie, but I'll search for it for the rest of my life.
And it's tough finding those that you don't know what they're called, because you have to Google search like
Yeah,
very specific terms.
yeah,
Like dolls stabbing guy, you'll get dolls, you'll get Chucky, you'll get Puppet
yeah,
Master.
yeah.
You won't get the one you're like looking for, but then you remember something like it's raining, or you remember, you know,
Yeah,
something, you just kind of like narrow it down, and eventually it hits it.
yeah,
Or you'll be on Facebook and someone will put up like a GIF.
yeah. Maybe
It's like,
before.
oh, that's that movie.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe before I die, I'll find it. Hopefully. So, anyways, is there any? So, like, we're talking about treasure hunting for all these movies. Is there like one movie or a couple movies that sort of got you the bug to be in these kind of movies, to like search out and act in these kind of obscure movies and bizarre movies?
A few, all at the same time. I think there was sort of a wave of these of J.R. Bookwalter and Todd
Oh
Schlichter
yeah,
and these
yeah.
guys, 93, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
And I don't know if there was a specific one or if it was just the whole scene. But I remember not Todd Sheets, Scooter McCrae's Shatter Dead.
Mhm. Oh, I remember seeing that a while ago. Yeah, yeah, that was like one of the
Yeah,
my
might have
2025.
been
Yeah.
one that's you can do something kind of epic for like zero money.
Mhm.
And of course there's Evil Dead and all that, which is super low budget, but it's like still out of the range of like you can just go do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Where these guys were getting into like they were just doing it on SVHS and these consumer formats. So I think that was the one in Ozone by
Oh, it's a
Gerald
great movie. I
Bookwalter.
bought that
Was
recently.
another,
Yeah.
yeah, was another one. That and I remember the box made like it was like this film noir black and white
Mhm.
shot, and the movie itself is like SVHS like crappy video noise, you know.
Yeah.
But those two I think were like so ambitious and kind of coming from nowhere. I think Scooter McCrae, he ended up in New York City, but I don't think he was in New York City yet. I think he was like more upstate. And Jared Bookwalter was in Ohio.
Yeah.
So it was like they weren't pulling off the Hollywood system even a little bit. Like now, maybe there's some people who've been in the film industry has kind of permeated the country a bit more. But in those days, that you didn't have people that were like they didn't have a two-liner, an ER, a lead in a B movie. They were just in the B
Yeah.
movie, you know.
Yeah.
So and those really sort of captured my interest of like you can, if you have the ambition and kind of can hustle your friends. And I had the ambition but always couldn't hustle my friends. They were all,
Yeah.
especially in high school, they were all like, I want to play video games, this is too much work or whatever.
It's true. Yeah.
So when I went to college, I was more into directing and writing and technical end of things, cinematography or whatnot. But somehow I segued into acting, and I knew I don't know if this is the right path for someone wanting to
Mhm.
do, because I've read interviews with agents and things. They do not say this is the path to do, but I did it. Of start writing these guys that like if you've heard of their movie, they're thrilled. You
Mhm.
know, like the Chris Seavers, I got a Joe Castro movie like that. Ended up doing I think 4 Joe Castro movies. All of these guys, like I started writing them, and as you do 1 or 2, then you kind of can do 3 or 4, and those 3 or 4 lead to 5 or 6, and then before you know it, they're calling you. You know, so
Yeah.
I did it that way, and it kind of spread virally in a way of like that tree branch family tree kind of style. You can kind of actually plot it, how it went, and you can cut together a reel. And now I'm at a point in my career where I'm looking for quote unquote real movies, you know, but still doing these. And I found my last batch, like my post-pandemic batch, which aren't out yet, they're still in the cutting stages, are at a level of like these are really good, these last few, not fake fun good. I'm into so bad it's good. These are more, at least I think, actually good. So I kind of reached that level, and not quite by those all came to me, is sort of what I'm trying to word here. I didn't throw those out. It was something like a whole lifetime of throwing stuff out led this stuff back to me, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's a great strategy too for anybody trying to break in and get stuff, is that pay an indie filmmaker a compliment, because they rarely get them.
And that is that word there. Actually watch their movies, watch a couple of maybe more. I started doing it at Hollywood Video, renting tons of them. Netflix DVD in the mail version of Netflix. I was renting tons of them. I think I spent a summer before I moved to LA.
Yeah.
Every low budget micro cinema movie I could find, writing down the director, writing down the producer, Googling them, IMDbing them, kind of really learning a lot about them. Then when I got to LA, like picking one a day and writing almost all of them. They didn't use me right away, but almost all of them have used me by like this point. So that is a good strategy. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's the Hollywood, how to get an agent, how to get a manager, how to get on the latest Disney show strategy, but it is a way to build an interesting career that you still need a day job, but an interesting career.
Oh yeah, you probably had experiences and memories no one else will come close to.
Of course.
Especially by being in like any like the the regular mainstream stuff. Like they'll never touch any of those like bizarre experiences. But I think it works because it's sincere from you, because you're also like a big, like we're talking about the video store hunting and all that, and being like you're also like really into these movies and loved them. So that's the big difference right there, is to actually pay a compliment to somebody's movie, but also like really be into the movies and fan of their work and stuff like that. I think people can tell you when you're sincere like that. And if you're cool to work with on top of that, that's a whole other bonus.
Well, yeah, thank you. That sincerity is pretty real. Like I am into this stuff. Like and I think it shows through. I know there was a debate on Facebook, a mutual friend or a friend. There are a couple mutual friends on this guy's thread got into this debate. He was a director, and he was kind of saying he got sick of Facebook messages from actors. Hey, here's my reel, blah, blah, blah. And he put this kind of thing up 3 or 4 times. It seemed to be something on his mind. I ignored it. I'm like, whatever. He can think what he wants. But eventually it gets like, I wrote like half my resume or more is because I did exactly this.
Yeah.
And it works. And he was like, oh, I guess it works for somebody. But another mutual friend kind of came on that thread who saw this and said, you're different. And he's a guy that used me, this particular guy in a movie. He's like, you're different. Your stuff is very sincere. And what this friend was complaining about, they were sort of this cut and paste, like, hey, I'm an actor. I see you're a director. Here's my reel. Consider me for your next project.
Right, yeah.
Like, I love that scene in Robot Massacre where the robot rips that guy's head off. And I noticed this and this. And like, so they know that it's, a little more real. And I think just watching them, you watch enough of them, you acquire a taste for them. I don't know if anyone, their first micro cinema movie, especially their first 90s, late 80s, early 90s micro cinema movie, I don't know if anyone likes that first one they see. Like, it's a little jarring. It's like, this is a piece of shit, but you kind of, it starts these gears turning of like, you acquire this taste of like, oh, there's a madness to this. This kind of like subterranean underbelly of movies.
Yeah, and there's a certain kind of like love for it because it's underappreciated, and and which will eventually be destroyed once Hollywood steals from it and takes it over. But as
They
of now,
have
yeah,
stolen from it and took it over, but it still lives. Like
yeah, yeah.
a new like I'd say Blair Witch
Hmm.
is one that
Oh yeah,
Hollywood put out. Some of the A24 kind of stuff has there's another company, Alaperna, something like that. They put out I know they put out a few P.T. Anderson movies, so they're kind of
hmm,
in that, but their logo front of the movie looks like Generation Lost VHS.
yeah,
And that's at the front of like an arty like a PT. It was in front of The Master, I think. One of the more recent P.T. Anderson movies anyway. And it's like, okay, this has sort of Adult Swim is a big, like Tim and Eric are totally
oh
children
yeah,
of
hmm,
what we're talking about.
oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it's permeated the mainstream, but there's still always an underground.
Yeah, and it's the biggest time right now for indie movies because the more, well, basically Hollywood has to make movies that have more money now, and they constantly have to make movies. Well, they constantly are in pressure to make their return backs. They take fewer and fewer chances. So what I'm seeing happening now is like streaming wise with the indie stuff, it's really booming, and that's where I'm seeing a lot of like the creativity and the madness and the cool stuff come from. Like the different ideas are coming from that because Hollywood sort of has its hands tied right now because if they lose money, they're really screwed. So they can rarely take any chances, far less than they used to be able to. It's not the 70s anymore. Those days are gone, unfortunately, for Hollywood.
I've noticed,
Yeah.
for one, a lot of very interesting, almost mainstream movies.
Yeah.
They're in
There's
the
a few. There's a
theater,
few that come out every year. Yeah. Yeah.
like just in the last few months, Barbarian.
That was awesome. Barbarian was great. Yeah.
Pearl, and
Pearl was great. Yeah.
Marcel the Shell, uh, a bunch of these. There's one I'm losing here that's even weirder than those, but those are like they're mainstream. I saw those. I think all of those at the regular Burbank Mall,
Hmm.
which is Los Angeles. You get a few more of these.
Yeah.
But the Terrifier 2. That's the one I was.
That's right. Yeah. That
Actually
one.
indie. So there is a real interest in these. I don't know quite why there's so much hubbub of like, oh, it's only superhero movies, it's only superhero movies. I think if you actually don't like superhero movies, it's maybe more of an insult. I noticed one thing is like, I like the superhero movies. I have no problem with them. I try to see all of them. But I think if you don't like them, I think part of the complaint is they invaded everything.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's the complaint that Scorsese had and a couple of other people had on as well too. Yeah.
I think if you go to see, say, Marcel the Shell or Barbarian or so like I can't think the title of it, the 3,000 Years of Sadness or something, the new
the
Miller movie, which is a real
George
weird,
Miller.
yeah, really weird movie. Even if you see those, the trailer for the Wakanda Forever is in front of it. So I think it's like that feeling you can't escape is actually what they're
right. Yeah.
I don't care. I go to see the latest A24 or something, even or the latest I saw the Crimes of the Future, the new Cronenberg or whatever.
Yeah.
You see one of those, and then you get the latest Spider-Man trailer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's cool. It lets you know when it's coming out. I'll see it that weekend.
Yeah. I love superhero movies too. Because I've been a huge comic fan ever since I was a little kid, and so I've always dreamed of seeing these movies come. Yeah, Venom right there.
Visual Venom shirt, right?
Yeah,
this is the off-brand like other superhero movies.
Yeah, like when I was a little kid, I was like, I just want to see like a Wolverine movie, or I want to see all this stuff, and all this stuff came to life, which is great. Although Wolverine wasn't a dwarf like he's described in the comics, he's very tall, Hugh Jackman, but Hugh Jackman does a fantastic job of playing Wolverine.
There's always going to be an artist's interpretation, or just okay, this as it is won't make money, so just change this. But you still have the original comic. I don't quite get the complaint, but when I think that, like, it's not so much the A24s and things where I see people rolling their eyes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more when I go to kind of an Oscar type movie.
Right.
And it's all older people in the audience.
Yeah.
because my tastes are so diverse. I'm always the youngest or oldest person in the
Yeah.
crowd.
Yeah.
You know, so because I'll see all this stuff. And I notice when you see this stuff that seems to be mostly older people, and it's a quieter movie, it's a drama, um, sort of character based. When that trailer for whatever it's going to be, the Morpheus or whatever, Morbius, I mean, that's where you get the.
Oh yeah.
Where if you're seeing a horror movie or if you're seeing something really wacko, like a Cronenberg or a Lynch or something,
yeah,
it's more. It might not be their cup of tea, but I think that stuff is closer to superhero movies
for sure. Yeah.
A draw like what there's always 2 movies a year nominated for Best Picture that no one saw.
Yeah.
When you go see I tend to see those right kind of that week. They bring them all back at least at this theater. And they tend to be like British usually.
Yeah.
Those tend to be like I'm 47 right now. I'm the youngest one in the theater by like 30 years.
Right,
Those tend to be like old, and like they'll show like, you know, tribal dancing Wakanda, blah blah blah. Starting, they'll be more CGI rhinos. You know, like, okay, I get it. It's not everyone's cup of tea. You know?
I don't have any problem with the superhero stuff. I just want to see them playing more indie movies and stuff. But I guess for a theater, it's a big risk to do that because they know that they're although you know, movies like Maverick bring in shitloads of people. It made like, I think it surpassed like what, an Infinity Game. So there is proof that people will go to the theater, but they just can't. Yeah.
I think no matter what, we spoke of this a little earlier. No matter what, like Martin Scorsese, it's all dead. No, it's not dead. I think there's a generational shift. Like, I have absolutely no problem that most, if not all of my movies are direct to video.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I grew up in the video store time.
Yeah. And look how much bigger the market for it is now. Like, we had no idea it was gonna boom like this. Like, this was gonna happen like this.
Obviously, I'd like to be in a huge movie in the theater. But that is straight to Netflix, straight to even Tubi, whatever. There's this sort of YouTube thing that some of my movies are on. They they make money on YouTube somehow. I don't know how much, but they do. It's like, I think it's like when I read Scorsese's thing, it's all this like, we're all together in this darkened theater having empathy for. It's like, I don't know if that's what I'm about. I love those movies, but I think it's more like, I think I'm into stuff a little more renegade than what he was describing. You know, like, I'm into stuff like, you can't get this movie except for you go to a convention and this guy's selling it at his table. I'm for that. You know, I'll buy that movie. Or it's on Tubi. And it's not directly recommended to you on Tubi. You kind of go through several layers. If you like this, you also like this. And then you just find it's like, what is this? Like a weird puppet thing or something you kind of come across. So I think it's a different mindset totally. I don't know if it's 100% generational, but there seems to be a generational thing where these guys that are 60s, 70s now, who kind of revolutionized stuff in the drive-in era. It's like, it seems to be a communal, all about the theater. And they always describe it dark. It's so important to be dark. We're in the dark together, empathizing with these people. I'm more like, I'm in a dorm room watching crazy shit on VHS.
Right, yeah.
And then the guys that are next in line are more like, I stumbled across this movie on Tubi at 4 in the morning. Or for some reason, there's a movie on Pornhub that everyone, you know, instead of porn, they found a movie that's hiding there. You know, you know, there's weird, always weird avenues. And I think one of the biggest mistakes you could make is to ignore a youth thing. Yeah. Like, to appeal to, Christopher Walken did it when I think he was my age now. Be in a bunch of movies that are I don't know if it was his choice or just his agent did it, but it seemed to work out for him.
Yeah.
Be in a bunch of movies that the youth are into now. So
Yeah.
you'll grow up being their, or they'll grow up with you as one of their guys. So it was like Pulp Fiction and Batman Returns and like all this stuff around the same time. I was like, he's the cool, weird guy in those.
Yeah.
If you appeal to, and I've noticed my last batch of directors are guys that definitely grew up in the, all but one that was a good friend, they were guys that grew up in the internet era. They're like 25, 22, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm appealing to them. And I know that's one thing that I want to discuss. And this is, I've been at this long enough to see some of my first movies that were ignored are now weirdly classic.
Yeah.
They're not classic the way One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is classic, or the first Batman or whatever is classic, but they're classic to these oddball, the equivalent of us, but they're like 22 now.
Right. Yeah.
Like Filthy McNasty and this one Mother that I'm in, and a bunch of the first 3-4 years of me doing this. Those are now like, oh, you're a veteran. You were in that. I was in this movie Low, L-O, for one shot. I was in this movie. And it's a great movie. There was a girl on a set I was on that was a makeup girl. And she looked me up on IMDb. She was doing makeup, and makeup people are always the ones into this. The horror gore kids, of course. They're always the one. And she's like, you're in Low. Holy cow, you're in Low. I like to tell you the truth. I don't really tell people about that one because I'm literally one shot. I might as well be an extra. It's a creature role, so I'm in it. But no. So that's kind of like being like a bit part in Star Wars. Yeah, you can still do conventions to this day. You know, if you're Snaggletooth, still do conventions to this day. So it's like, oh, Low has that type of appeal. So these movies, it doesn't seem this long, but I've been at this more than 20 years. Those early ones are now like hipster cool or something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's something. So it's like, wow, I've made it full circle where it's like the weirdo kids are now finding me. I'm all for it. Like that's the thing, the point I was leading to. It's like, okay, their stuff is more video-y, like digital. It's not on film. Some of them are way into film, but mostly it's digitally. And they're sort of proudly digitally. They're not digital to look like film. They're sort of proudly, this is a digital movie. Yeah, jump on board. If you want to make interesting work, I would say the youth. I don't care about generational differences. Oh, Gen X says this, millennials, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know what? They have differences, but it's a collaboration that people bring their differences kind of to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's almost part of the meeting of the minds, interconnectivity that you find on set, you know.
That's why people have historically all moved from different walks of life over to LA because they have that common interest. Exactly.
And I remember I spent a good year, in addition to renting all those crazy movies, I spent a good year researching, reading sort of how to get into professional acting books and things. And also these websites that were like forums for actors, which don't seem to be that good if you're already established. Like if you have 2 or 3 TV shows, you already know everything that they're talking about. But they were, at least in these days, talking about how to do your headshots, how to get an agent, how to get your first few movies and things. And I spent a good year reading those guys. Yeah. And it seemed to have they weren't against indie movies, but they were definitely against schlock. Right. And I knew reading this, I'm like, there is no way they're going to tell me not to run straight to schlock. Right. Yeah. Like, and I think you're right. That sincerity comes forth. Like, I'm waving that pride flag for schlock heart. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you're making a completely ridiculous, absurd movie, Attack of the Killer Toaster or whatever. Why am I not in it? Like, and it's like, looks, you can't put it on a reel, but you can put it on a reel aimed just for this.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it's like, I did not hide where I noticed, like, they were for indie, but it was more Sundance attempts, maybe, which I'm not
Right.
against. I'll do them any day of the week. It's just I think I ran like full speed
Yeah.
towards schlock.
Yeah. 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 Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so speaking about that, like you've worked with all kinds of interesting, fascinating directors that have done all kinds of eccentric, bizarre movies. Just to name like a couple of them: Charles Band, Ramsey Abed, Lloyd Kaufman, the guys that made the VHS movies, Damon Packer, Chris Seaver. Talk about like kind of some of your memorable experiences or what's different working with these different directors.
Well, all of those guys are sort of lightning in a bottle geniuses that you mentioned. They're all extremely different.
Yeah.
And they're different from each other. They're different from the mainstream. All of those guys, with the exception of the VHS guys, who the VHS thing I did was directed by Adam Wingard.
Mm-hmm.
He just directed.
He's doing the King Kong movie. Yeah.
The King Kong. Yeah. It's King Kong versus Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it Godzilla? I forget if it's Godzilla versus King Kong or King Kong versus Godzilla. So he got to that high level of mainstream. He's an interesting story, though. How he came about is Simon Barrett wrote and produced the VHS thing.
Mm-hmm.
1 and 2, not 3, but he came back for 4. I think he sold the rights for 3 and then got them back somehow. I knew him. He was a mutual friend from a guy I went to film school with. And he went to, about an hour away was another film school he went to. And I knew him through this mutual friend. He'd come up for the parties and things. He was making a short, and me and this other guy, Josh Slates is who it is, who's also a filmmaker, went out and did his short, gripping sound, basic crew. And that short sort of came out as much as a short can. It ended up on one of those trauma dance DVDs. And then Simon moved to LA before any of us. And I kind of fell out of touch with him, but Facebook and MySpace, all these things, I had him there. But it's that kind of thing. Every once in a while I get a like, or he likes one of my things, but it's not a big communication. But I noticed him, everyone did, noticing him. He's getting bigger and bigger projects. He was writing Sci-Fi Channel movies. He was writing, then he was writing the VHS movies and these kind of indies that was sort of coming out. And then I went to a movie at that, it's the, I forget the name of that theater, but it's a theater in I think Los Feliz. Not the one that's just called Los Feliz Theater.
Was it the Vista or the Arrow?
Vista. It was the Vista.
Yeah.
I went to the Avengers, actually, of all things. That we're just talking about superhero movies on the first day. Mm-hmm. And it was sold out. And I was kind of walking through the line to see if I knew anybody. And he was in line and had an extra ticket. I was like, holy shit, thanks, man. And so I saw it with him, and then he goes, what are you doing in like June or whatever month it happened to be? And I said, so hopefully something with you. I knew he was kind of on this track. Mm-hmm. And he put me in VHS 2 in the Adam Wingard directed segment. And that, to this day, is my only major commercial release. Like, that got theaters and all across the country, not just Burbank and York or whatever, but it got the real wide distribution. So those guys were, what's funny, Adam Wingard knew about all this stuff. Mm-hmm. He Simon pitched me to him, and his exact wording, or what he told me anyway, this guy's in Damon Packard movies and Chris Seaver movies. Yeah. But when I looked at, oh yeah, he's in, and he was a huge fan of that stuff. And his early movies are along those lines, pre VHS, Pop Skull and all that. So yeah, he went from those to King Kong versus Godzilla, and they're involved. Every once in a while, you hear they're involved in whatever, and then you don't see it. So these things, I kind of have that Hollywood way of like one article and then drifting away. So I don't know what's real and what's not with them, but I know I saw Face Off, either sequel or reboot thing, like a few other weird things they're kind of involved with. They did that anime live action, I forget what it was called. It was like a remake of an anime.
I think it was Death Note, right?
Death Note, which I didn't see any version of Death Note, so I don't know how to comment on that, but they did it. And so anyway, that's those guys. Probably the weirdest is Damon Packard.
Yeah.
Damon is making truly independent cinema.
Yeah.
Like
Charles
definitely. And Lloyd Kaufman, they at least fit a mold. These are genre movies.
Yeah.
Damon's invented a genre.
He has,
they're like a cathode ray right from his brain, like like they're weird. And I saw Reflections of Evil, actually Michael Todd Schneider, Michael Maggot, he was part of the team that made August Underground. I was in his movie Opening the Mind, and I stayed at his place in Pittsburgh for a few days, while we made that movie, and he showed me Reflections of Evil. And he's like, "You'd love this." And I was moving to LA in like a week or two. That was a shooting that was like, "Hey, I'm moving. If you want to make this movie you're talking about with me in it, you got to shoot this." And so we did. And so so he showed me Reflection of Evil, and it's like 2.5 hours long. Oh, I know. I remember he had to go to work, and I was home at his place alone. So he gave me some movies. These ones are up your alley. And it's funny because the first, 20 minutes, I was actually kind of bored. And I think almost all of Damon's movies follow this path. They're real stream of, I think he's just making them up as they go along. They're real stream of conscious. Like, so the first first like half hour is just like sort of random stuff, and it's inside jokes about movies, even footage from
oh yeah, lots of that.
And it's like, and then it just builds, and I'm like, by the end of Reflections of Evil, it gets past the dog barking scene, if you remember that. Like, this is the most boldly original, to be like the sort of quote on the box comment. This is the most boldly original movie of the 2000s or early 2000s or something. Would be a very honest blurb, because I've never seen anything like this, and I've seen every piece of shit I could find. Every arty movie, every weird movie, every whatever. This was wild. So I moved to LA. I find Damon on MySpace, and I write him. And I think he replied. He seemed kind of indifferent. So whatever. I don't even think he was making a movie at the time. And then my friend Caleb Emerson made a movie, Frankie and Blunderland, that I'm in, which you might have seen. That is a really good one.
I have not seen that one yet, but I've seen Dahlia Zombie Bastards, which is awesome.
Both of those are unfairly obscure, and everything we're talking about is obscure, but those probably should be in the next level or two of obscure. But I'm in Frankie and Blunderland, and Damon has a cameo in it, and no scenes are together. We're in different parts. But Damon played a store owner, and I played like a weird homeless wizardy character. And so Damon saw that movie, and we met at the premiere. And I think we hit it off. He knew I was real, as opposed to just what we're talking about. The sincerity is what matters. And so he calls me to be in Fox Fur.
Yeah.
And is that one that you've seen, Fox?
Yeah, I I watched parts of it before, and then I watched it again last night. It is the weirdest thing. It's so great because it's just, if you watch like a Damon Packard movie, it's kind of like you're describing. It's like you don't really know where it's going to go or what's going to happen. Some characters will play the same person. You don't know why. People be like wearing random fat suits. People will be like twitching their heads around for no reason, and then stopping and then speaking in different voices, and all kinds of weird like cosmic shit going on in the background. It's a combination of so many bizarre elements all together with like you're saying, I get a feeling of like a stream of consciousness from him. Yeah, definitely.
There's and knowing seeing his movies, then knowing him, there's this bit of parts you thought were funny. This is what Damon's actually trying to say to the world. I think there's a real questioning of reality itself within Damon's work, like The Matrix. Like,
oh, definitely. Yeah, I got that a lot from Fox for
not so. Like The Matrix explains these aliens came down and plugged into our brain. It's very Damon's more from like, well, you don't know what it is, but just if there's a message to it, it's to question actually if what you see is real. That philosophical debate. And I think Damon really is questioning this. I think a lot of people are. Everyone does it once or twice, and I just brain in a jar somewhere. But I think Damon is like all the time, and there's all these layers of reality in Fox Fur. And the whole multi-actress thing, I think I don't know what came first. And I don't know who's who. I know who a couple of them are, but I don't know quite who's who. One actress got cast in the Hunger Games. The real one. Had to go. Had to go.
I remember hearing that.
Yeah, it's the red-haired girl. She got cast in the real Hunger Games, and she's in, I think, 2 of them, 3 of them. Her characters like throughout. So she did it. And then there's one left to be in either the Peace Corps or AmeriCorps, which is sort of Peace Corps in America. It builds houses and things. So she's an altruist. Did that. And she left on good terms because she came back. Oh, and in case we're kind of talking from already seen this movie, I forget sometimes we're on a podcast where people are sort of Fox for if you've seen the lead actress changes who's playing is what we're describing here. One actress had a falling out with Damon, which isn't surprising. He works kind of stream of conscience. Like you get a call 2 a.m, like, hey, can you be here by 3? We are shooting a scene and we can use it. I'm crazy enough. All right, fine. I'll call off work or whatever. But like, I could see an actress with aspirations to not be fond of this kind of thing. And one story, this really cracked me up. All these are actresses that are in the, younger ingenue. They're all good looking, all, they're up for being in movies. They're all good actresses by my opinion. And Damon, or maybe it was through one of his friends, told me that he didn't audition as much as he kind of interview them and get their schedule and whether they're up for a project like this. And he met them at like Taco Bell and Del Taco and all these places like that. And you knew not to have a meet at your house, which is a faux pas. But Damon lived in like one of these weird kind of like, not a shelter, but like sketchy, low rent. They're not apartments, but they're not a halfway house either. They're some sort of weird situation. So no, they didn't meet there, and they didn't rent a studio or whatever to audition. He met them at like Taco Bells and things like that. That's awesome. There's something like genius about it, of like these young hot actresses, if they're willing to meet with this guy at a Taco Bell and talk about this weird shit, like brains controlled by aliens and this is like a dream and whatever, then they're troopers, they're up for this. And so we shot that scene. I play Richard Hoagland, who's a real guy. He wrote all that stuff. 2012 was when around we shot this. 2012 Doomsday,
the Mayan calendar stuff. Yeah.
and then that Mars had people on it, and there was some sort of extinction event, and some of them migrated to Earth. All this, that whole conspiracy. That's, I don't know if Richard Hoagland invented it, but he put it in a book. It might have been around before him, but he put it in a book. I played Richard Hoagland in that movie, and we shot it on a real LA bus. And I do a full monologue in that movie pretty passionately about life on Mars and naming like different cities on Mars and things. And I had to watch a real Richard Hoagland clip, which the speech was actually kind of from, and kind of try to do his mannerisms and stuff. And they shot Fox for another day. So I was acting to nothing. And it was Damon was sitting on the seat of the bus where the Fox actress would be and filming me, and she wasn't there at all. And there was a guy where my eye line was. And Damon had a little camera, like a consumer Sony or something. So no one knew he was filming. And this guy just thought I was crazy, ranting about Mars. And so there was an authenticity to this that I don't think could be replicated. And Damon's not letting anyone know. He just goes, do it again, but louder. And I'm like, okay. And I'm pointing at this guy, and it's like, there was a mass extinction event on Mars, and the city of Sedona was flooded, or whatever. I don't remember my own stuff, but something along those lines. And this guy's eyes are just getting bigger and bigger. And then every time I finish it, and Damon calls a really light cut, I'm sorry, man, which I think made me look even crazier, like shifting between these personalities. But I made eye contact with this guy, and I don't know how they did it. The reverse, which is shot on a much better camera. If you watch that scene, mine's in consumer, and the reverse is in like HD, which just describes the feel of Damon's movies overall. She came on that bus with a bow and arrow, quills, quiver.
That's right, quiver of arrows.
A quiver of arrows. Walk on the damn bus. Could you do this today? Walk on a bus in full, like arrows. Like I don't. Maybe they didn't have the point on them or something. Maybe Damon did, but. It's like, this is crazy. She's sitting there, and then she sits in the shot. She sits, and one of the arrows bumps a guy who was not a pre-planned extra. Like, looks, what the fuck? It's like, that was real. This guy who really ended up in a Damon Packard movie, he didn't know and got bumped by an arrow by this girl that looked kind of like Link from Zelda. And so that was insane. And all of Damon's directions were basically say it louder and like more hostile. Damon's movies are very hostile. They're like attacking the audience. So that was the hostile. And then, the premiere for that went astoundingly. I found out who Damon's crowd was. They were not the traditional black horror shirt wearing Fangoria guys. They were a little more art school rejects. And that sold out, that premiere. It was at the Egyptian, and they played it with Reflections of Evil, if I remember. And I knew this had never happened to me before. This is I'd probably done a good 20, 30 movies at this point. Damon put the pictures up on Facebook. Shot yesterday with John Karyus. And there's nothing crazy about him. There's no effects or anything. It's just me on a bus in this kind of orange shirt. Within a couple weeks, I went to a movie at one of those LA hipster revival theaters. I think it was New Beverly or something like that. people were coming up to me, "Are you in the new Damon Packard?" It's like, oh, this is tapped into this.
Yeah.
They know it. There's no trailer. It's just from those still, and they probably see you from being a regular or whatever. It's like this tapped a nerve. Like you're not in just a new movie. You're in the new Damon Packard.
Yeah.
Like I think there's something a little like dangerous about it.
Yeah.
like that's what is it like? You know how crazy is it? And then a few years later, I think 2 years after that, I did another one, which at the time was called Untitled Yuppie Fear Thriller, which became Fatal Impulse. That's what it's known on.
That's one you played Dick Cheney in.
Yes, I played Dick Cheney in that. And that movie is maybe even weirder.
It is bizarre, yeah.
And it's I think it's like 2.5 hours long, something like that. And it's Damon's brain on a silver platter. You want it or not. People are playing real people. I'm Dick Cheney, and I put on a suit. I had this suit. I don't know if I did this for the movie, but I buzzed my hair as close as I do. I cut it a little longer. Usually, I had it short that time. I'm not sure if I did that for the movie though. Maybe I did it just in general, but we're brainwashing the lead of the movie, and who's like sort of pulling the strings of this conspiracy. And there's like a serial killer that may or may not have to do with him. And they're pulling the strings of this conspiracy, and Dick Cheney's involved, and it's taking place when Dick Cheney's still not vice president yet, but head of the CIA, I think he was. And this Rhonda Shear is who we're brainwashing. And we're like waterboarding her and stuff. We say we're going to waterboard. I don't think Damon wanted to actually fake waterboarding this poor girl, but that's we're like threatening her and all of that. And the lead actor, who this guy Mike Hickey, I believe, was totally in on the joke. Mike was very involved in this film and sort of spearheaded it a bit. Damon always has a co-pilot. There's always a second that's sort of feeding together, and Mike was that on this movie. And but Victoria Greenberg, who, by the way, I think every actress I ever worked with was named Victoria. It seems like I worked with like nine.
Oh yeah, like the Killjoy, Victoria Del Mar.
Victoria Del Mar, Victoria Strange, few others. But Victoria Greenberg was very nice, very cool. I remember she came. Damon had never met her, and one of her friends came by and like introduced her. It's like, this is Victoria Greenberg, and you'll be playing Rhonda Shear. She didn't know who Rhonda Shear was. She was too young. She didn't grow up with Rhonda Shear, and so Damon showed her some pictures and stuff, and she sort of was laughing. She's like, "That's so 80s, like the hair and all that."
Yeah.
But she did it, and we improv this scene, and I remember she was like sleep deprived in the movie, so all of her lines are whining, "I just want to go to sleep. I just want to go to sleep." And me and the lead were just like, "You are going to dumb down the nation. You're going to show them only crap. So by the time 2004 rolls around, they'll be so dumb they'll accept this. They're dumb. You're going to dumb them down." And like, there was no brutality, but there's something really just nasty about this whole thing. And it was, and Victoria was a trooper, a sport, but it's like the whole time is like, she didn't know what this was. You know, like it must have been kind of real. If it's weird for guys like us, it's weird. Would have been weird for her, but she got it, and she liked the 80s thing. I think all people respond if you get to play another time period, they kind of like it. But it's like, you are going to host a show and show the stupidest movies, and the dumbest people will watch them, and this dumbness will spread. And there's all this jokes about like everyone's in on the conspiracy. And I know I had a line of like, Doc Severinsen just assassinated the King of Peru or something like that came in on a phone.
Mhm.
We had one of these big phones, like an old portable phone that I was getting these
Oh yeah, yeah.
updates from the dark web or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's like, and covering it, Doc Severinsen is just murdered, whatever. And like, so that I don't know how to wrap that up, and I don't think Demons movies don't wrap up either.
Yeah.
They just end. It's like it's going, and then just credits start rolling. It's
Yeah.
like when he runs out of space on the DVDs he's burning to, it just stops.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. But yeah, you won't forget. Like, I won't forget either of those movies for a long time. Yeah, there's just something very so different about his stuff and like those other filmmakers that we mentioned, where they'll stick in your head, especially when it's so bizarre, like stream of conscience, so different from what you normally see.
And they're
like,
funny, like they're
yeah.
really funny, but they're also, and there's a satirical element. Like that sounds like a
Mhm.
Mad Magazine, what I just described.
Yeah.
Like Doc Severinsen involved and stuff.
Mhm.
But there's an undercurrent of like true darkness.
Mhm.
Like there's a dark message to this. Like this is dangerous material.
Yeah.
like well, actually, when I first described where I first saw Reflections of Evil with Michael Schneider, I was kind of like, this is what it feels like to go. This is what it feels like to lose your mind. I think.
Yeah.
Like reality is falling away as this movie progresses.
Absolutely, yeah. I got yeah, for sure. I got that from that. It was funny because this one apartment that I lived in, there was a copy of Reflections of Evil there, and I was this is like this before I ever met Damon or anything, because Damon used to hang out with Dwayne Whitaker when I was staying out with him, and he used to be there when we were hanging out at like 4B or Denny's or places like that. But so there was this movie called Reflections of Evil, and the people that lived there before were not into like weird indie obscure stuff. And I heard this famous story about Damon where these were like all over town. He would take these copies of Reflections of Evil and he'd put them on like celebrities' doorsteps of their like mailboxes and whatnot. I don't know how much of that is accurate, but I heard that from several people.
That's
and that may be how we got a copy of it.
Yeah,
like, how the people lived there. Yeah.
Michael Schneider got that. He was in Pittsburgh,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a Tom Savini makeup thing in like a makeup
store in
Pittsburgh. Part of at least now it's part of a college. I think it was independent at one point. The guy who did effects for his movie was for Michael's movie was a Tom Savini student.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a box just arrived. Distribute this to students. And it was Reflections.
Yeah, that movie was everywhere.
Like 40 copies. But it worked. The word of mouth, it didn't get mainstream, but the word of mouth got out through, I don't think they were called hipsters yet, but these sort of cinema weirdo hipster types, Yeah, whatever he's doing, it works. It's insane. But that's what's needed. I don't think there's enough crazy out there. Maybe there's the wrong kind of crazy. Like don't go shoot up them all. But like,
yeah, too much crazy in the real world, not enough crazy in movies.
That's perfect. Yeah, too much crazy. People are fighting. People, whatever your political beliefs are, whatever. But like, like keep it friendly, I guess. But movies are where you should go all out. Like, oh yeah, make a movie with Dick Cheney wanting to waterboard Rhonda Shear. Why not? Like, if that's your view. And make one of the directors, you say Chris Seaver, make a monkey man movie masturbating with shit with a fake dildo. Make whatever Lloyd Kaufman puke monsters and stuff. It's like, why not? And it's like there are audiences for them, but I do find like, I'd say the people I know from more traditional acting paths, that acting board I mentioned earlier, and acting classes, my day job, I work at a part-time job in Hollywood. There's actors there. Some of them are up for the crazy stuff, and I've helped them be in the crazy stuff, and they help me. But So, oh no, I'm keeping myself for pilot season, which doesn't even exist anymore. You
Yeah.
know, like it's like, all
Yeah.
right, you know, I'll click on you on IMDb every couple of years, and it's still the same 2 credits. And some of them are really nice people, but it's like, I think you got to have like uh, 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 a lunacy
Mhm.
to kind of jump into these worlds.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see who's some of the other ones you mentioned. I
Oh,
think
I want to, yeah,
Receiver.
yeah, Chris Seaver and Lloyd Kaufman, I'm interested in. And like, okay, so question about Lloyd Kaufman. When I watched I've seen like, and I've met Lloyd in person, and he's awesome. He's super
Oh
nice
yeah.
guy,
Oh, he's
and
really cool.
he's very helpful to indie filmmakers. There's so many great things about it. But I did see on the documentary, I think it was like Citizen Toxie documentary, it looked like it was just complete chaos. So is the environment like he was talking about, like everything's like chaotic, and Trent Hagel's like, how am I keeping this shit together? What's going on? Everything's
Oh
changing
yeah,
all of a sudden. And then everybody's like sleeping on the floor, and they're being fed grilled cheese sandwiches. That was like the famous story about it. But
yeah. The
is
food was a little better on ours. A restaurant helped us, but it's pretty chaos. It's Lloyd just like a tornado.
Yeah.
But and it's like huge. It's like 30, 40 random weird people from all over the country and beyond. There's
Yeah.
people from
Yeah.
France and all that. Just sort of can't. We were in a church. We rented a church, and we're in the basement of this church. And I lived in that area, not super close to it. It was like 45 minutes to an hour away, depending on traffic or whatever. But I lived in the suburbs of Buffalo, getting into the farmier part of it. So like kind of a drive to get to the real city. So I didn't stay at the church with the weirdo, all the weirdos, but I eventually did. When the turnaround started getting like you had an hour of sleep, the hour would be my whole drive home. So I was sleeping in the basement too. But it's a delightful chaos.
Yeah.
It's there's definitely a weird feel, like yeah, this is kind of like a cult, of course, but like it's a cult that's temporary. It's like a 3 weeks or something, a month. And you jump all the way into this weird world that's all slime, all rubber, latex stuff, all weird dicks, all weird cum. And it's like eccentrics, trauma fans, film students, and this question mark other. How did they even find the ad? Like
Right.
weird weirdos, all kind of communally living in squalor, making this crazy movie that like every day you're shooting something fucked up. Somebody puking, somebody getting their guts ripped out. I had my guts ripped out my own ass as my bit, which I don't think we've said out loud.
Well, that's what happens when you go to a cursed Indian graveyard and Indian burial ground, and then a zombie puts a hand through the cornhole, then goes up through the mouth, and then rips your intestines out.
They molded my real ass with the like did a mold of it, so it's a fake ass, but it is my the shape of my real ass. I still have it. The zombie hand punches right through it, pulls the guts out. And we shot that scene over 2 nights.
Yeah, because they had a lot of effects in it.
Yeah, and the big they built this platform where all the zombies were under the platform, and they put grass, real grass, I think, on the platform, and the hands would come through, and so it was like a whole ordeal. And I know that there was this big trauma fan guy, older, probably 50s, I'm guessing, maybe even 60s, owned a house, and he said we could shoot in his kind of huge backyard, maybe even farmy, like gardeny. We shot that in his yard, and I remember finding out midway through the shoot he was really offended.
Yeah.
And I guess he complained about all the masturbating and all of this, all the dicks. And everyone was like, this guy was a huge trauma fan, like passionately a trauma fan.
Yeah.
Had he actually seen the movies? Like it's so much of it, and every trauma going back to the beginning, that's what they are.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. It's not like they've all of a sudden done a 180. Yeah.
yeah, they were always, they maybe got in the 90s, I think they got more extreme, like
Yeah.
more cum or more puke or something, but like they always had that element. And so anyway, we shot that till the sun came up and we ran out of time. And then we did the whole movie, and everyone was, I at least was very worried as he's just going to drop that scene, you know, because Lloyd's very like,
Yeah.
like I hate that scene now. I'm gonna drop that scene. We're not shooting it, you know, all the time. And I worked on that movie as crew. That's why I was there the whole time. And the last day, it's like either the first or second day, and then the last day was mine. The rest of that scene, and that time we shot it in the church backyard. We were worried about getting kicked out of that church.
Yeah.
So anything messed up was shot somewhere else or kept so hidden that the lady that owned it was a super nice lady. The lady that owned it was on Lafayette Street in Buffalo. I'm saying that for anyone out there who may be a trauma treasure hunter.
Yeah.
The old church on there. So we shot it in the backyard of the church. I'm pretty convinced it was like the last day.
Yeah.
I think it's like at that point, if we get kicked out, fuck it. We get kicked out. But so we shot that, the gore of it on that last day, the guts getting ripped out of the ass and the actual hand pushing into the ass, that platform thing was in the backyard of the church. And there is one shot, it's a little later in the movie, a musical number breaks down into different bits from earlier in the movie, sort of singing along. That shot, the sun is already up. So like the beautiful magic hour, I guess that's the sunset, but that feel was going on while we shot that scene. So we cut right as the
nice.
And what's funny, the next day that we had about 3 or 4 days of cleaning the church to in the restaurant we shot in. It was it was caked with like filth, like bloody feathers. This was a chicken zombie movie. There was a layer of bloody feathers on the floor, just impacted all these layers into this crust. That was shot, or that we were cleaning that, and Katrina was hitting Louisiana. We were up in New York. We didn't get Katrina, but we got the edge of it. So there was this really sleety, haily, cold storm. And it was somehow like a bittersweet, kind of creepy ending. And we met these friends. These friends I still have to this day. I met Tom Devlin on that movie.
Oh, nice.
Who put me, who when I moved to LA was my greatest ally.
Oh, nice.
He was an effects guy, and he put me in all the Asylum movies. He's how I got in the Charlie Band movie. Indirectly, it was John Lachago put me in it, but it was through Tom Devlin knowing him. And he owned his effects shop, and I would help out. I would sweep the floor and all this, and he'd get me bit parts in all the movies he was working on.
Oh, that's freaking awesome.
Get your head blown up, whatever. And I think I did 20-something movies with him, at least according to IMDb. And then we did extra work together. We did background together. We both, did central casting gigs together. Like, we really were working together a lot. And he got me all those Asylum films and everything. And then just recently, the film I did in Vegas, Las Vegas Frankenstein, that was directed by Tom Devlin.
Yeah.
So it's come like full circle. And I'm a lead, one of the 4 leads. There's 4 leads of the movie there. And I'm one of them. So that's like a full arc like if they're making a movie for my life, that would maybe be the arc, you know,
Yeah.
if it ends now, you know. So yeah, that was pretty like exciting to do that Tom directed. And I'd done movies that his wife directed, and both him and his wife they have kind of a symbiotic relationship to how they make movies. Like if Tom's directing a movie, Lola is involved. She helped with the script or something. So some of these ideas are definitely hers. But if you work on a Lola movie, same thing. Tom's voice is definitely there. So they have a symbiote relation, like Venom relationship.
Yeah.
But but or like Star Wars, the midichlorians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it works. But I think some she makes and some he makes are like, you know, focused one way or another, their viewpoint, I think.
Oh,
But yeah, it was great doing a Tom movie after all these years, and other people who done, I think almost everyone had done, been in his gang at some point, at least one. I know the girl in it was new, but she had done a movie with him maybe right before the pandemic, I think.
yeah.
So you know, it was a real good family feel. The sort of comeback, chip the ice off the pandemic was sort of like, wow, we're back in business and our friends are all here, and everyone was great, you know. So that worked, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, it's awesome that you got to be in one of Tom Devlin's movies and that he helped you out. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, that I hit LA running. There were lulls. There was a 3-year lull, I think, but like having a built-in kind of friend group that was sort of third trauma.
Yeah.
A third guys I went to college with. And then a third, not trauma, but this B movie scene.
Yeah.
That I kind of fell into, that you came from.
Yeah.
Really kind of helped. That that like when I read Actors Thing, it says like one of the hardest, the social part of LA is very difficult for some people. I think it's just so big. And if you don't have like such a specific interest, you maybe get lost in the fray a bit. And I did not have that trouble. I had like friends during that early year or two. So that helped a lot. And that is if I don't know if they're even listening to this, if trauma and stuff isn't their thing, but if B horror is not your thing, find a thing.
Yeah.
Golf, romantic comedy thing, writing or whatever, and find a group of people into that.
Yeah.
Because acting specific, like acting classes, are great, and you will meet lifelong friends from them. But there is a sense to that everyone's kind of in it. They're in it for themselves. They're either resume building or getting skills to book work or whatever. Some of them view you as competition, even if you don't fit the same type at all.
Yeah.
Still, where these sort of niches of indie genre films, or even sort of hobbies, crafts, you know, you make different sewing things or whatever. That is where you find and in LA, if people into that are also into movies, it's just maybe not all of them, but so like find your thing that's not directly your thing, and work that into your world. You'll be much happier.
No, that's great advice. Especially for like, I mean, you got to find your tribe, your group of people you connect with. Because I remember when I first moved to Hollywood, it was like I was an extra and all this stuff, and it just seemed like everybody was miserable on the high budget stuff. And I was like, I guess there's like parts of misery on indie movies as well too, because there's so much chaos happening. But there's also more of a sense of community and like a feeling of belonging in indie stuff, where you connect with people faster, and there's less a sense of elitism. Although I'm sure there's some indie directors that are pretty
that I think there's less. Some people let it get to their heads. Some people let it get to their heads and then they snap out of it, like they're brought back to earth. Like the Las Vegas Frankenstein's a perfect example. The main people, Vince Cusimano, Victoria Strange, myself, Steve Hansen. They were the four main actors, and the camera guy, Gary, and his wife, and Tom himself and his wife really became a family.
Yeah.
Like an actual family, and to the point that it was tough to say goodbye.
Oh, yeah.
That's tough. I have not had that happen in a bigger budget film. I've done extra work, and extra work is never going to happen. But
they just treat you like cattle. Well, they feed you well, but
extra work. It's like I hope the check shows up. But like, I would say extra work. You'll meet one or two people that you happen to sit with and play cards that end up your sort of in your game. But for the most part, extra work's something to do in between your, like a day job's probably better than extra. But I don't regret it. I still do it. I have not burned that bridge. I don't do it as much, but I get a text once in a while. I say yes or no from it. I say yes if I have time, or I'm hard up for the cash or whatever. But it's not something to take that seriously. Yeah. But it's fun, and you meet people. But yeah, you're right. As far as like that camaraderie and that, like, we went through a war zone together and this kind of weird family bond that I can't think of. Like real families sometimes don't have that bond, like.
Yeah, it's true. So there was two other questions I wanted to ask you. Does Chris Seaver do a lot of improv, and how hands-on is Charles Band with all the stuff that he's doing?
Chris Seaver surprisingly does not do that much.
I was wondering if that was all written down, or people kind of.
Yeah, there's some sprinkles here and there of improv. He's one of the more by the book directors I've worked with. Chris Seaver, when we made Filthy McNasty, which his movies are a little more slick now, but he prides himself in that they're DIY.
Yeah.
So he's never going to be slick. But I had just gotten out of film school, and I told that adventure that I did in New York and all that. And then I did a Chris Seaver movie. And in film school, you learn all this, the lights and all this technical stuff. Chris, he had the script, he had his camera, and there was like a chat between like 5 characters, or maybe 3 or 4. He had the script in one hand. Okay, aim the camera at me, say blah 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 blah, make it funny. Aim it next guy, say blah 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 blah, make it you're afraid, and kind of piece it together that way. No lighting, just the whatever lights are around. We were shooting in a school. We were shooting at University of Buffalo, and not with permission. We were just there, and none of us went there. So actually, Chris's cousin, who plays Teen Ape, was a student there, but no one else was, and which is, I think, highly illegal. And we piece it together that way. And I know when you sign on to do a movie, they tell you it's done in 2 hours. You're there all day, probably 2 in the morning. Chris said it was going to be like 2 or 3 hours. It was 2 or 3 hours.
That's awesome.
And we shot, I think, 3 scenes, maybe 4. And I remember I hung around after, because I was a grip guy and all that. Do you need any help? No. So, there was no lights or anything. Okay, and I stayed through lunch. I got lunch for everybody, and then I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll see you guys. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, Chris is a really great guy. and a workhorse. Like, he's making a movie before he finishes the one before.
Yeah.
And they're just all these weird titles. I'm in Filthy McNasty 1 and 3. There's like Scrotal Vengeance. There's Blood Fart
Revenge. I think I saw like Return to Blood Fart Lake, or
Return to Blood Fart Lake.
Yeah, that was I saw that on TV.
Like Revenge of Bloodstool Pond or something. There's like the sequel. And there's all just these crazy, I can't even think of them. And Anal Paprika was what I found. I was looking at Debbie Rochon online, and the Anal Paprika trilogy 1, 2, and 3 was on her IMDb.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? Is this a porno? And I click on it. It's a real movie. Or not a, whatever. Whatever it is. Micro movie. And I click on it, and it leads me to Chris's website, which at the time was totally a 1999 website. Those little GIFs and GeoCities or something like that. And the address to order the tapes from was down the street from where I lived.
Oh, that's great.
So it's like, oh shit, I'm writing this guy. And he ended up, it's funny, I moved out of this apartment complex. He ended up moving into that apartment complex after I left. It was called Westbrook Commons, which many bad student films have been shot in Westbrook Commons. And many Chris Seaver movies were shot in Westbrook Commons. And no one knows. It's just like a normal community of apartments and stuff that's in Rochester, New York. But people who know there's weird film history in that place. But yeah, Chris is nuts, but in a good, they're all nuts in a good way.
Yeah.
Chris is a lifelong friend, like all these other guys. I've done, I think, maybe 4. It's funny, you lose track of all these movies.
Yeah.
But I also did the Death O' Lantern, the remake.
Oh, nice.
He made a movie called Death O' Lantern on VHS. He made movies on VHS in like 2008, 9, 10. And I was in Death O' Lantern, the remake, which is a remake of his own movie, and it's also a spoof of remakes. And because there still are, but at the time it was a whole lot of remakes. Hills Have Eyes and
oh yeah,
that wave of like remakes of all of those. And Friday the 13th and Freddy were remade. But yeah, that I was in Death O' Lantern, the remake, and the only I wasn't a character. It was just show up, and I happened to be in town. I'd already moved to LA, but I was in town, and I saw Chris looking for extras. I'm like, I'll come in and do another Chris movie. And I got this hot dog costume because it's like a Halloween thing.
Yeah.
And Chris, that one had some improv in it. Chris will improv when things get fucked up, when someone doesn't show up or something like that. Or just somebody will throw a zinger out. That zinger will be in the movie, like a funny line. But there's not whole improv, like, I'll say this, you say that, I'll say this, you say that. He keeps it like by the script. But the improv moment, I think he was having trouble wrapping up this movie. I don't know why. He was running out of time, maybe. That all of a sudden, the Death O' Lantern is going to kill these kids, the lead kids. And Death O' Lantern's like a Jason or, whatever, Michael Myers. And Wiener Pete suddenly emerges and fights the Death O' Lantern with and that's me in the hot dog suit as Wiener Pete. Mythical Conan sword. So yeah, and Chris is still making movies. I actually did a documentary about Chris, interviewed that. It's called Low Budget Heroes.
Oh, Low Budget Heroes, cool.
Not out for consumer use yet, but is on festivals right now. I heard it's really good. I haven't seen it. I don't think I'm in it much. One or two sentences. through Zoom. But yeah, seemed really good. And Chris has a very loyal band of compadres making these movies with them.
Oh
Like
yeah,
6 of these. It's like another one of these families, like film families people have found. I'm a bit on the peripheral of that film family, but I know them all. I think I just live too far away. But you know that the Chris Seaver joints are Chris. If you're a fan of Chris, I think everyone could relate to this. I'll watch one Chris Seaver movie and get a taste for him. Watch like 2 or 3 in like one maybe week-long period.
Yeah.
Then I've had enough for like a year. A year and a half, and then you get this craving again. The right kind of moment. You see a picture go by on Facebook, you got to see some more. And what was the other
question? I had a question about Charlie Band. Is he like, so is is there like a chaotic element to his movies as well too? And he does like a ton of projects. So how hands-on is he as well?
Charles Band is not as chaotic as Lloyd. I don't think anyone's as chaotic as Lloyd. Maybe Damon might be. Damon's a different brand of chaotic. Damon is not a typhoon. Like he's actually somewhat subtle in real life, but his just calling at 4 a.m. to shoot is chaotic. But Charlie has a vision. All his movies, whether he directed them or not, are that. He's an auteur. It's very much like, say, Star Wars. Only the first 3, only the first one's directed by George Lucas.
Yeah.
He's all feel like George Lucas, you know. So it's like that. They're all puppets and clowns, and
he's got what would it be, like a PCU, Puppet Cinematic Universe?
They are calling it the Full Moon Universe now, although that's sort of post-Marvel universe that they adapted that. And they didn't have much crossover back in the day, although now they're bleeding some comics in. And but the Puppet Master Universe, I'm in the Killjoy Goes to Hell. That's directed by John Lachago.
Yeah, and you are a great Toady character, and the Toady lawyer, and that is awesome.
Thank you.
Clown character. It's awesome.
That is a big feather in my cap. I'm the main villain of a franchise Full Moon movie. That is a real feather in my cap. And I did this crazy voice in that movie. It's like, hey man, you know, that character is sort of the character I play in Las Vegas Frankenstein.
Oh, nice.
It's a homage. It's not. It's more human. There's more pathos there.
Yeah.
I read the script for Las Vegas Frankenstein. I was trying different voices. Tom kept hinting, make it more like Skidmark. Skidmark's the character. Part 4. He's like, make it more like Skidmark. Eventually, I during this rehearsal or something, I'm just like, do you want the Skidmark voice? He's like, yes. So it's like, okay. And the costume, it's human, but it's suspenders and kind of baggy pants. It's like, this is Skidmark before he died. But the backstory is totally different. He's not a lawyer. This is the Igor guy to the Frankenstein. So it's like, okay, this is a weird, it's kind of like Joaquin Phoenix versus the regular universe. It's like, the continuity's off, but it's still the same character. So that's a tidbit. Hopefully that's not a spoiler. Tom doesn't seem to give a shit about spoilers, so I'll just say whatever. He'll if he yells at me, whatever. But we'll still be friends. I know what spoiler I can't say, and I won't say it. It's specific to don't say that. So anyway, Charles Band's method seems to be like John Lachago. That was clearly his vision. He created all the side characters. He created Skidmark, and he created Punchy and the others, sort of Cenobite-like clown creatures for 3. And the whole lawyer thing, I think, was John Lachago's idea. Like, that's just a bizarre idea. Do a sequel to a supernatural slasher film as a spoof of courtroom dramas is
Right.
a very weird idea. So that was a John Lechago film all the way, but Charlie had his vision strongly imprinted on it in the color scheme.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In the nods to other movies, sort of puppets on the shelves and things. He was on set. We shot in that hospital that some of the Nightmare on Elm Streets were shot in, the boiler room. That was hell, which is really cool. We're in
that
the
is
Freddy
awesome. Yeah.
dungeon. He was on set those days, and he's definitely like, oh yeah, make it more cartoony or whatever, but he's not overbearing. He lets the directors make their movie. So like Roger Corman did, he lets them make their movie. And I think some of them he's just seeing if this idea will work. He has sort of like a deal of 13 movies with Redbox or Tubi or what have you. Now he's got his own streaming thing, so those things might be gone. But at the time, he'd get these blocks, make 10 movies for whatever. And a good chunk of these would always have a puppet master, always have another sequel, there would always be these franchise things, but there was always a couple oddballs.
Yeah.
And I think those oddballs are just seeing if this will stick.
Yeah.
Like they're all passion projects. They're very commercial, but Charlie is into weird dolls.
Yeah.
He collects them. Like you've seen the Karen Black, the trilogy of terror.
Yeah.
Those are real things. These weird kind of African, weird other culture dolls. He collects those, the real things. So he's into this stuff and weird circusy vibe and comic books and stuff. So it's not a non-personal vision. It's just a personal vision that happens to have a commercial element to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it's not completely off the deep end. Damon Packard. There's a commercial. There's a beginning, middle, and end of the movie. So yeah, but Charlie's great. Like Charlie and Lloyd are almost a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
Lloyd being very yang. Lloyd yells everything, doesn't make sense. He's yelling about scenes we shot 4 days ago. Where like we're shooting them now, where more blood is Lloyd's motto, just screaming more blood. Where Charlie's very looking behind the monitor, very calm, very like, oh, that's interesting. I like what you did with that, with your hands in that shot. Do that more or something like that. And but it's still like a weird vision that no one else can do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He's created his own super niche out of it. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah. So, well, it was fantastic talking with you, John. You've given all kinds of great info for up and coming actors or anybody just involved in like the indie scene or the indie horror scene or just like getting into movies in general. And you've been very generous with your time. Thank you so much for that. And just let us know where we can find, let the audience know where they can find your work and anything new that you have coming out that you want to promote.
Well, what I have new, Las Vegas Frankenstein. I talked about that in a good length, but that is, I'm not sure when it's going to come out, and it is, as far as I know, it's this YouTube thing, which I don't quite understand, but it's this YouTube movies thing. Not the best guy to ask if you ever have Tom on as a guest or just check his stuff out. You'll know if you know him. And that should be coming out soon. We wrapped shooting it, and he said the turnaround was going to be quick, so a few months. Then I did Ramsey Abed's First Person Savior, which we shot over the course of a couple months back in April, May-ish, maybe March. And that's a weird movie too. That's that is in the strange art vein.
Yeah.
I'm the lead of that. It's rare that I'm
nice.
I'm the lead of that, and which that is most of these films. I have a pretty strong lead role. Las Vegas Frankenstein, one of 4 leads. I'd say Vince Cusimano is the lead, but the other, it's an ensemble where first person savior is a character piece.
Yeah.
It's a taxi driver meets a racerhead, but by way of very digital video-y, boldly colored kind of nightmare.
Yeah.
So it's that glitchy, weird video kind of thing. And I'm that guy, the creepy guy it's following. And that one, it's done. I went over to Ramsey's place about 3 weeks ago and we watched it, and it's an almost done cut of like all the music's done. He said some sound work still needs to be done, but it's done. And the tone of it, it's funny, it's darkly comedic, but it's also like there's a melancholy to it. Like it's a sad, kind of a departure for some of, actually all of these kind of are, because the Las Vegas Frankenstein led with its heart, you know, and this one is sort of a sad, troubled movie. And there's a personal element to it. I think maybe all of Ramsey's movies there's a personal element to, so it shows like what's going on in his life goes on in the movie, but not directly. It's surrealized a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with Ramsey spent the pandemic living back home with his parents. I think it's about that. And what led him to that. Now he's back making movies, so this is the burst through for him.
Yeah.
And then there's anyway, those both lead with either the heart or the soul, where I think I before that led with the id.
Yeah.
You know, the inner pervert darkness, what I was leading with. Now I led with the id, or the heart more. And then there's this one, Bad Brain, by Greg DeLisso, who wrote Psycho Ape. Have you seen Psycho Ape?
Psycho Ape. I think I've seen parts of it on where was it? Would I catch some of it on Amazon or something? I think I might have seen
it was
parts
on
of it
Amazon.
Yeah.
Psycho Ape is one of the most fun indie movies I've seen in the last few years. Of indie meaning micro budget. And Bad Brain stars Kansas Bowling, who seems to be the new queen of really strange hipster movies, like not quite horror. I'm not quite sure. She's super nice. I'm not quite sure what her story is. She does seem to be, like me, genuinely into this stuff. Like she wanted to put references to, I don't know what this was, this sort of 70s trucker music, like Convoy is one of her interests. And the t-shirt was hers. Like she wore this one of those bands. So she's definitely an oddball interest girl, but also normal, but does like 100 of these. So she's the lead, and it's a weird, really weird movie. It's getting into the Damon Packard territory.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in a, I guess, future or alternate world, like a Beetlejuice or Hell's Highway or something, where it's like, it's our world, but it's sort of skewed.
Yeah.
Where Friends and Seinfeld are like the sort of main debate topics, and they're taken seriously like people debate, you know, abortion or
right. Yeah.
And it's not about that. It's actually, I think what genre would fit in was like indie romance, I think, in this world. And they meet they meet all sorts of weird fucked up characters. I play 3 of them.
Nice.
One is a sort of a self-help group motivator leader. One's a cop there's 2 cops who say some pretty politically incorrect things, probably blowing a joke there, but whatever, you'll forget by the time you see it. And the third we haven't shot yet is top secret, but it is similar to Damon Packard. I'm playing a real fictional guy.
Nice.
And that's a wild movie, and I have no idea when that's going to come out. Festivals and things, I think, before it comes out. And where to find me? I'm on both Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, I add pretty much everybody that's not obviously a bot.
Mhm.
You know, if it's just you and your webcam and like you know, gorgeous Playboy picture and no mutual friends, I don't accept that. But I everything else I do, all the weird horror dudes that add me, I accept. And then Instagram, oh, it's John Karyus on Facebook. And I also have one that's a like page, like an actor page, but I haven't quite gotten the habit of that one yet. I used to try to put something up once a week on that, but I kind of got out in the habit. Then I have Instagram at John Karyus, all one word. I actually just resurrected that. I made an Instagram like 10 years ago, but it was pretty much just if anyone tagged me, there'd be something to tag.
Yeah.
And just hope no one tagged me in something too fucked up and never looked at it again.
Yeah.
But now I kind of had to use it. There was someone I had to write a letter to that turned their Facebook off and was only on Instagram. So I had to kind of turn my Instagram on. And now that I got these movies kind of coming out, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I kind of start awakening other platforms. But yeah, it's pretty fun times. I got these things on the horizon kind of coming out. And like always, I don't know what I'm shooting next, but there's these murmurs. People like, oh, we can use you here, but we don't know for sure if we're shooting yet. That's kind of where I'm at right now, new stuff. So great. Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah, this was a blast. Got all kinds of great conversation like I've always had with you before, and got all kinds of cool information, stuff that I wanted to know about, was curious about.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you haven't seen any of John's movies, go check these out. Fantastic character actor, highly recommended. And he's got tons of movies to check out. Almost you could spend endless hours checking his stuff out. And there's some like really cool hidden gems in his work. Once again, John, thank you for being with us. Thanks for listening. And until next time, stick to the roads, stay away from the moors.